Hey y'all, happy St. Patrick's Day Eve, and today I'm going to be ranking and talking about the Leprechaun movies. If you know me, you know I love me some Leprechaun. So yeah, I'm just going to rank all the movies, going from my least favorite to my most favorite, and I'm going to also be sharing like some behind the scenes facts that I found, and like original concepts and stuff like that. I got my Goosebumps shirt from Cavity Colors on. I know it's Christmas, but I thought it had some green on it, and I don't have a Leprechaun shirt, unfortunately, but if I did have one, I would rock that shit, because I love Leprechaun. Before I start, I'm going to show you my Leprechaun DVDs, because I own every single movie from the franchise on DVD. I got this on eBay a few years ago, but this has the first 7 films. It has Leprechaun, Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun 3, Leprechaun 4 in Space, Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, Leprechaun Origins. And then this also came in the same lot. It's Leprechaun Returns, and it's just like on its own little DVD. But yeah, so those are my Leprechaun movies. I wish, like, literally some of my dream VHS tapes would be like the first 3 on VHS. Specifically, I would love to have obviously the first one and the third one. Okay, so I'm going to start with number 8, being my least favorite in the franchise, and I'd have to go with Leprechaun Origins from 2014. Warwick Davis isn't even in this one, and there's not even really a leprechaun in this movie. I guess the director wanted to go in a whole new direction. He wanted it to be like more scarier and like less comical, and it just did not work out. I mean, all the fans of the Leprechaun franchise deem this one of the worst ones out of the whole franchise. So I have to agree with it. I have seen it all the way through, and I just don't care for it, and I have no plans to rewatch it. Number 7 for me would be Leprechaun 4 in Space. Now, I hate this movie. Like, I don't want to say I hate any of the Leprechaun movies, except for I hate Origins, and I also hate this one. Like, I can't help it. I gotta speak my truth. I wanted to like this one because, I mean, it's like from the 90s. I mean, how can you go wrong with like Leprechaun in the 90s? But for me, it's a fun premise, like thinking about Leprechaun in space, but with all the other like side characters and side plots and sci-fi crap in this movie, like it was so boring. I could not sit through it. I mean, I did when I first watched it, but like every time I've tried to rewatch it, which has only been like once or twice, because, you know, annually I like to try to watch all the Leprechaun movies, I just like have no intention of rewatching this one because of how bad it is to me personally. And it just does not keep my attention. I can't stand the characters. It's just so dumb. Like, it's a cool premise, like I said, but it doesn't work out for me. I don't like it. Okay, and then number 6 for me would be Leprechaun Returns. I remember watching this movie on Sci-Fi, and when I first saw it, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, I haven't rewatched it in a while, but like, I remember rewatching it, and I just did not really like it, and I was bored of it, and I hate that they replaced Warwick Davis. Like, obviously they had to. I mean, they didn't have to, but like, they asked him to come back, and now that he has kids, he said he sees like horror movies in like a different light and stuff, which I understand. But like, if you're not gonna have Warwick Davis back, why even make a Leprechaun movie? Like, Warwick Davis is the Leprechaun. Like, you can't replace him like that, in my opinion. And just because they throw Leprechaun makeup on another person or another actor or actress, like, that does not mean that it's the Leprechaun. Like, it does not even feel like him. It just, ugh. I mean, having Ozzy back, the original actor who played Ozzy, and him reprising his role as Ozzy was such a treat. I love him so much. But spoiler alert, to bring him back, such a iconic legacy character like him from the first movie, just to kill him off like that is just foul. That's just awful, and I cannot stand that, and I can't stand watching his death because it is so heartbreaking. The acting is horrendous. I mean, the conversation around mental illness, like how the friend, like, I believe in the movie she like says like, oh, like she's gonna become like her mom and like go psycho or whatever she ends up saying, and it just rubbed me such the wrong way. It just made me feel icky. I mean, the movie does have like pretty cool kills, like the solar panel kill where it like slices the dude like right down the middle, and like the sprinkler scene, and you know, the Shamrock Shake like scene at the end where like they blow up the leprechaun. But other than that, I do not care for this movie. All right, 5 and 4 for me are gonna have to go. Back to the Hood would be number 5, and then In the Hood would be number 4. Um, I don't really care for either of these ones. You know, are there fun moments? Sure, but I just I don't really care for it. And then like you have like the leprechaun like smoking weed, and it's just like so silly. Like I don't really know. When I first saw these movies, I was like, okay, these are somewhat enjoyable, and now I'm just like, they don't. I don't really tend to rewatch them. I kind of just stick to like the first three. Oh, if I forgot to mention, Leprechaun Returns is from 2018, Back to the Hood is from 2003, and In the Hood is from 2000. Okay, my third favorite is Leprechaun 2 from 1994, and this is when we start getting into the movies like that I'll actually rewatch and that I actually like. This one isn't my favorite, but it is alright. I mean, the go-kart scene is really fun. The scene in the garage with like the leprechaun where he like pretends to be like the girl and then like ends up like killing the guy with like the lawnmower thing. Like they couldn't show the kill for budget reasons, I'm assuming, but like it was still like a pretty cool like scene, like how the leprechaun like threw his voice um to sound like the girl, and then like it was kind of cool how like it showed like the silhouette, like the shadow of like what was happening like with the lawnmower, and then it just like spews out blood, and then the leprechaun like says his little quote. I think it's like, I hope it was as good for you as it was for me, or something funny. I just love the leprechaun. And I also really like that like whole like horror tour like aspect that like the main guy is like running. I thought that was like a fun little like part of the plot. All right, my second favorite in the franchise would be Leprechaun 3 from 1995. Now, I love this one. The main dude in here is so freaking hot. Like the transformation scene where he transforms into a leprechaun, I'm like just like staring at my screen, I want to lick it. And then I love like the Vegas casino atmosphere, and I just like adore the low budget of this movie. And Caroline Williams' death scene in this movie is just has to be like one of my favorites from the franchise. It's just so iconic. Like those visuals will not get out of my head of like her boobs and her butt being blown up and her lips, and it's just like so graphic and vile and just great. Alright, and then number 1, of course, has to be the original Leprechaun from 1993. I mean, it's just such a classic. It's just, no pun intended, but there's just such a charm to it. I think it's the perfect film to watch on St. Patty's Day, and Warwick Davis playing the Leprechaun just perfected that role and that character from the start. Like, he is the Leprechaun. And then, of course, Jennifer Aniston, this being her first major role ever, was really cool to see. I just love the whole main cast. I adore Ozzy and how they all work together in this movie to defeat the leprechaun. I mean, the well scene at the end is just so iconic, and like the visuals from that and like the bright greens, it's just so cool. And the one-liners are like awesome. I love those. Fuck you, Lucky Charms. I mean, he's so good at playing like a creepy ass leprechaun. Like, he's creepy, but like he's also funny. But I think this movie like mixed the perfect amount of creepy with a bit of comedy. Like, it was the perfect mix. But it's not too comedic. Like, it sticks with its horror roots is what it's trying to do, and I think it succeeds at that. But yeah, I have no other notes. It is such an iconic movie, and if you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some fun facts. So, from Leprechaun 1983, when creating the effect that the leprechaun was melting from the inside at the end of the movie, Warwick had to wear a acrylic jawbone and had several tubes superglued to his body. Slime and cigar smoke were blown through the tubes to create the illusion of the leprechaun melting. Okay, Leprechaun 2 from 1994. Jennifer Aniston was offered to reprise her role as Tori for $25,000, I read, and she ended up turning it down. Also, fun fact, Heather Langenkamp from Nightmare on Elm Street franchise was offered the role of Bridget in this movie, and she turned it down to work on New Nightmare. Alright, now here's a bunch of Leprechaun 3 facts from 1995. So the movie was filmed in a total of 14 days. Production could only afford one night of legally shooting in Vegas, so the scenes of the leprechaun walking on the strip was mostly shot without a permit. Since it was a low budget, no sets were filmed, and all the interiors were shot inside the abandoned Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, and that hotel was demolished in 2005. While they were filming on the strip in Vegas, there was all sorts of bystanders asking if they were filming a leprechaun movie, and they wanted to be in it. I mean, imagine like a movie filming like that today. It's got this actor in leprechaun makeup just hitchhiking across the Vegas Strip. Like, just thinking about that is just so iconic. It just puts a smile on my face thinking how much fun they must have had making this. And like when he was trying to hitchhike, I also read that like cars would actually stop when they were supposed to keep driving. And these bystanders that were like walking on the Vegas Strip, they wanted to be in the movie, so the director let them, but they were told to just walk past the leprechaun and to not look at him. This I just thought was a weird coincidence, but like in the movie, Mitch tells Tammy, the magician assistant, that she'll never get a job in show business again, and the actress in this movie never acted again after this. So I thought that was just a weird coincidence. Okay, and then this isn't really like a behind the scenes fact, but like the movie Leprechaun in Space is supposed to take place in 2096. Alright, and then Leprechaun in the Hood, I just want to share like a goof. So after the group is told that they made it to the finals, you can see the top of the set walls in the other like room behind it. And I actually like rewatched the movie and like paused it at that scene, and like you definitely can see like the behind the scenes like sets on camera like during the movie. Also, like throughout the franchise, there's lots of goofs where like the boom mics will be like in the shots accidentally. And then Leprechaun Returns, it was filmed in Cape Town, South Africa. I read that they were gonna shoot it in Canada, but for some reason they chose South Africa. Alright, and last but not least, I'm gonna talk about the original concepts and titles like for the movies. So for Leprechaun 2, they were going with like a Bride of the Leprechaun vibe. So the leprechaun was gonna seek revenge on Tori from the original movie if Jennifer had agreed to come back, and they were gonna trick her into marrying him. The title was gonna be One Wedding and Lots of Funerals. Another concept written revolved around a mother and son who worked at a carnival, which I read. It's a very elaborate concept. If you go on the IMDb page for the Leprechaun 2, you can read all about it. And then in Leprechaun 3, it was going to be titled Trial of the Leprechaun, and it was going to be a direct sequel from the second one. Like, they were going to shoot them back to back with the same characters and actors. Also, Leprechaun 3 was almost released in 3D, which I can only think of how iconic that would have been. But this was the first film in the franchise not to receive a theater release, but they did well with video sales, so that's the only reason they decided to make more movies, was because it did so well selling. But it was going to be the last movie in the franchise, believe it or not, making it only a trilogy, which I would have been fine with, but I still think it's cool that we got like more Leprechaun movies. I mean, how can you say no to more Warwick Davis in the Leprechaun character? Okay, and then Space was going to be called Space Platoon. In the Hood was going to be where Leprechaun invades the White House. Just imagine that for a second. Back to the Hood was going to be set on Venice Beach or on an island during spring break. This I thought was so interesting, and because I love both of these horror icons and their franchise so much, I would have loved this like in another like timeline. Just thinking about this would have been so cool. Tony Todd was approached to do a Candyman versus Leprechaun movie, and he turned it down, so it was never made. Like, can we just like stop for a second and think about that? In another timeline, we got Candyman versus Leprechaun. Like, how would have that have even worked? And then for Origins, there was a plan for a sequel, but because people hated the one that was made, it was turned down, and instead in favor of The Leprechaun Returns. And then Leprechaun Returns was going to be titled either Leprechaun Lives or Leprechaun Renewable Enemy instead of like Renewable Energy, which is really dumb, but oh well. I think I like the title Leprechaun Returns. But anyways, that's my Leprechaun video. I hope you enjoyed. And let me know down below if you watched any of the Leprechaun movies and how you would rank them if you've seen them all. And I hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day. Peace. Thanks for watching.